Hey there and welcome to No Recipe Required. I'm Dave, and tonight I've got a classic comfort food for you. It's actually kind of tough to say, classic comfort food. But anyway, what we're going to do is a little bit of meatloaf. It's one of the childhood favorites that I had. I've modified the recipe over the years a little bit. I think mine's pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and show you how to do it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on our meatloaf. Now my meatloaf, for this version of meatloaf, I'm going to go pretty heavy on the vegetables mixed in with the meat. So I've got there a large diced onion, and I've got here a carrot that I've shredded up. I'm going to throw those into a hot pot, obviously with a little bit of olive oil, good pinch of salt, and I'm just going to wilt these down to where the onions are translucent and everything is soft. After the onions have gone for just a couple minutes, I'm going to add in my diced red bell pepper, and then also just going to let this cook. You want to kind of check the moisture in the pan. I'm not really looking for any browning, and this looks just a touch dry, so I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil, and again just let it wilt down. It'll probably take 15 minutes over medium heat, stirring probably every 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, after we've sauteed the red pepper for a few minutes, we're going to add about 3 cloves of garlic, coarse or finely chopped, and then I like to add, as our last vegetable, a good handful, maybe a handful and a half of baby spinach, and then just grab some tongs, work that in. It'll only take a few minutes to wilt down. And it will wilt down. It's almost going to be like there's nothing in there. And then once it's fully cooked and just kind of broken down, take it off the heat. You can move all the vegetables into a separate bowl and just let them cool down to close to room temperature before we mix them in with our meat, eggs, and breadcrumbs. Okay, let's go ahead and mix our meatloaf. I'm using I like ground beef and ground pork in my meatloaf. A lot of people would add ground veal as well. I think that is totally acceptable. And then if you want to get creative, you can obviously do the same thing with turkey, with chicken, with lamb, whatever. I'd say if you use turkey chicken, the white meats, you might want to up the seasoning a little bit because they tend to be a little bit more bland. Here are all of our vegetables. And if you see, that's almost maybe a third vegetable compared to the meat. I've let them cool off, hit it with the salt and pepper. I've got 3 eggs, which I'm going to add, and then I'm going to add a whole bunch of breadcrumbs. Probably a good cup and a half of breadcrumbs in there. And then we're just going to mix everything together. Now certainly you could do this, go with the wooden spoon or any other mixing vessel. I find the best mixing option is really just digging in with your hands. You can even use one hand, you keep the other hand clean, then you can still, touch stuff. You don't have to worry about the cross-contamination. Once I get this all mixed together, I'm just going to take a little bit of the meatloaf and form a tiny little patty, fry this off, and then give it a little taste test to see if I've got the seasoning right. If I need more salt, more pepper, more anything in there. And that way I don't end up cooking a whole meatloaf and end up with it drastically under-seasoned. So let me go ahead and do that. We'll do a little taste test. I'll get it to where I want it, and then we'll come back and form it. Okay, so I just finished my taste test. I found my meatloaf was a little under-seasoned, so you just add salt and pepper, remix. If you found it was too tough or chewy, more breadcrumb would certainly help. Now, for sizing the meatloaf, you can make it, it doesn't matter, big, small, whatever. It's just going to affect the cooking time. I like to make mine, kind of fairly small. So this is going to get me 2 meatloaves. So just, divide the pan right in half like that. And in fact, I'm going to freeze one. I find, mold them and shape them and then throw them in plastic wrap, some foil. They freeze pretty well. For the one we're going to cook, I just kind of lift it right out of the pan, or right out of the pot here, mixing bowl, kind of football shaped. And I've got a cooking sheet here. that I lined with aluminum foil. You don't need to, but I figure, hey, why not? Makes the cleanup that much easier. And then you just keep going in that football shape. And I am a big believer in the free form. So I just lay it right down there. And then we're going to pop this into an oven at about 375 degrees. This one will probably take 50 minutes or so. You want to get the center up about 150 degrees. So along with our meatloaf, I'm going to make a little mushroom sauce. Really simple to do. Of course, we're going to start off with some mushrooms. I've got, there's probably half a cup, maybe a third of a cup of just chopped plain old white button mushrooms. And we're going to saute them down until they get nice and crispy on the outside, tender on the inside. Really, the water evaporates. You're going to be amazed how much they cook down. And we're just going to create a little roux right in the pot with a little bit of flour. We'll add some beef stock, a couple other things here and there, but super simple, and we'll have a beautiful sauce. Once the mushrooms are done, shallot and garlic. Okay, once the garlic and onions have softened up, garlic and shallot have softened up, add about a tablespoon of flour, and that's going to create our roux. Now you may actually need to add, like I do, a little bit more olive oil, because you need that flour to be absorbed by a fat. And I just turn the heat down to low. I'm just going to let that flour kind of cook out for about 5 minutes or so, and that's going to eliminate some of that raw flavor. And then once that's out, we're going to add some beef stock, reduce that down, and that's going to be our sauce. Okay, so I let my meatloaf get to about 150 degrees, 155 degrees on the inside. I think that's perfectly cooked, especially you got pork in there, so you got to kind of get it all the way there. We're going to let it rest for about 5 or 6 minutes. I leave the thermometer in there while it rests, just because if you pull it out right now, you're going to end up with a big stream of juice that comes out, and you want to keep all the juice in there. And because we've got this aluminum foil, our cleanup's going to be nice and easy. We'll slice it up and serve it. Okay, so let's finish off our mushroom sauce. Our flour has cooked down. My baby cries in the background, but don't worry, the wife's got her. And then we're going to just add a little beef stock, and you're going to see, just like a normal roux, that the flour in there is going to thicken it up as we deglaze it. You can see there's almost no liquid in there now. It's kind of pasty, and we're going to just slowly add that beef stock in and let it kind of come up to a boil as we go in. Probably going to add a total of a 1/4 cup in there. Bring it up to a boil, and then start reducing it down, and we'll have our sauce. Okay, after a few minutes on the boil, your sauce gets nice and thick, exactly how you want it. You can always add a little bit more stock to it if you need to thin it out at all. But this looks good. You want to give it a taste. Check it for seasoning, and we are good to go. Okay, after our loaf has rested, time to slice. Get a couple good slices there for yourself, for your wife, for your guests, for whomever. And then I'm serving mine with a little bit of mashed potato. You can take the meatloaf, spread it out like that, wipe the hands, and then we've got our mushroom sauce that you can just go right around, right around the plate, a little bit on the meat, and we are good to go with classic meatloaf. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.